Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Did you know you can support the channel by joining? If you enjoy the videos, it's something to think about. On to the stories. This is my channel's weekly compendium, ending Monday, December 19th, 2022. Case file number 873, written by Sethicus to Ash. The world ended on Thanksgiving. So this happened a few days ago, on Thanksgiving Day, November 24th. I was getting ready to go to my friends for dinner in my bedroom and heard more noise than usual outside. I went to my window to get a visual on what was happening in the local neighborhood. There was more going on than would be a typical day, but there are always normal neighborhood things happening, such as people in the yards and kids playing, dogs barking, squirrels, cars going by, and so on and so forth. There was nothing different in this moment besides the fact that the commotion was amplified, understandably so, seeing as it was a holiday. I took it in for a few seconds and went to the bathroom to pee. Mind you, I couldn't have been there for more than 2 minutes. I went back to the window because I needed to close it up before I left for my friend's house, and what I witnessed I don't think I'll ever fully comprehend beyond just accepting it as a universal glitch of some sorts, or interference with my own conscience. When I went to the window, there literally was nothing going on. Not one person, not one noise, not one car. When I said nothing, I mean I could feel how silent and still it was, and the atmosphere was very heavy. I stood there, if not out of shock of sorts, for at least 5 minutes just waiting for someone or something or some noise to interrupt this deafening silence. I finally came to and got my bearings together enough to go downstairs and out the front door to get a better perspective, and this is when my heart skipped probably 5 beats. I opened the door and literally everything that was present prior to the 7 minutes during the bathroom trip and my experience at the window was again in action. All my neighbors had at least a car in their driveway, kids were playing, birds were chirping, people out and about in cars going by. I since then subtly gained more insight into what my neighbors were up to, and every one of them said they never went anywhere during that time. Between noon and 2 p.m. is what I asked, to make it easier for them to remember. I can't afford to have them think I was hallucinating or something, which I swear I wasn't, as I do not use anything beyond a non-narcotic anxiety medicine called Inderal. Case file number 874, written by Janet in Spain. The best friend I'd never met before. This happened a while back, but still makes me go, I was new to the San Francisco Bay Area and was invited to a garden party by some people I met at a festival. I was kind of standing around feeling awkward when my eye caught a woman on the other side of the room. She also looked straight at me. We ran to each other and hugged, almost crying about how long it had been. Then we started trying to remember where we'd met. We'd never lived in the same city before. We'd never worked for the same company. We had no mutual friends. We never attended the same school or church. We had exactly 0 history together. But our first glance and hug were of recognition and long-lost affection. No drugs were going on at the party. I'd had less than 1 glass of wine. It wasn't any type of altered state that caused a sense of familiarity. We literally saw each other across the room and immediately ran, arms outstretched towards each other. I've always wondered if it was a glitch or a past life memory. We were inseparable for months, total best friends. Then one day I called to ask if I could come over. My husband and I were having serious issues and I wanted to spend away time for the day with my best friend. She said no, that she didn't want my negative energy in her home. We never spoke or saw each other again after that. Whatever we needed to finish when we saw each other across that room had reached its conclusion. That door closed permanently. The whole thing was a surreal experience. Oh, and I divorced my husband. I wish I could now remember her name. I tried to find her on Facebook, but it's as if it was wiped from my brain. Case file number 875, written by 13 Luthien 4077. You'll need glasses to see this glitch. I wear glasses. I get new glasses from the same optometrist every 2 years after my prescription changes. I am incredibly nearsighted. I get the same frame type since I'm used to it and think it looks good. They're usually a rose gold or pinkish metal half frame with the bottom half of the frames being plastic tubing to hold the lenses in tightly. My last pair were pink with swirling wave-like patterns on the legs of the frames. 2 weeks ago, I misplaced my new glasses. The nose pads were loose and of a firmer plastic than my old ones, so they clicked whenever I adjusted my glasses on my face. The metal was closer to gold than rose gold, and the legs still had little square patterns on them, almost like ancient Greek pottery or clothing sometimes has. The ear pads were close to the same color as the metal. I could not find these glasses anywhere. For 2 weeks I wore my old ones, while I looked for the newer glasses. Last night, my mother picked up a pair of glasses that no one in our house recognized. We all wear glasses, but we also all have different prescriptions. My father and brother are just barely nearsighted to the point that their glasses are just for driving and reading, whereas my mother requires trifocals. I do not require trifocals or bifocals, just yet. However, I am significantly more nearsighted than my father and brother with a steep astigmatism that no one in the family has. Regardless, the mystery glasses frames were a rich rose gold with brown ear pads. The legs were split-shanked at the hinges with wave patterns further down the leg. I firmly declared those were not my missing glasses since the frames looked nothing like the new ones. Everyone tried them on and the prescription of these mystery glasses only matched me. Therefore, logically, the glasses must be mine. These mystery frames are the most confirmed glitch I have ever experienced in my life. The nose pads click whenever the glasses shift or I adjust them. The prescription is undoubtedly mine. However, looking at old selfies, the frames are a different shape. I even took them to my optometrist's office and they confirmed the prescription is mine, but the frames did not come from their office. There is no brand serial number anywhere on these glasses. Nobody can tell me in the slightest where these frames came from, and I still cannot find the other frames. Case file number 876, written by Fall Asleep Forever 88, The Leaf That Proves We Live in the Matrix. The most significant yet basic glitch I've ever experienced was a time when I was walking along the road. It was autumn, so leaves were falling. It was a fair distance from any trees though, but things felt still, and despite being in a large town, there wasn't any traffic, noise, or people. I remember it being super calm and was looking ahead, fully aware of things, rather than just daydreaming as I walked, or looking at a phone. From the beginning of noticing what happened to the end was about 20 seconds, and I was not intoxicated at all. This location is usually noisy and busy, but I was alone. I recall feeling like everything had slowed down. It was so quiet, and looking back, I think it was similar to when video games don't render the environment fast enough, and it takes a while to process textures in. So what happened was, I saw a large bunch of leaves suddenly begin to spin around like a vortex about 15 steps away, even though the weather was calm. It doesn't seem unrealistic that these things happen in a breeze. As I looked at this, which was literally the only thing around me that seemed to be occurring, the leaves were randomly starting to spiral around, all at different speeds, so it caught my attention. The leaves were going up about 5 or 6 feet in the air, and I noticed they seemed to be out of place. Why would there be about 50 leaves altogether? No stray ones here and there or spread out around the vicinity. Just one pile that suddenly began to spin around up ahead, which somehow ended up there even though the closest tree was 100 meters away. All of a sudden, as I walked closer and looked at this happening, one single brown leaf stopped. It was above the rest of them, which were in motion like a shoal of fish, and it just got stuck, in midair in the middle of an empty road, broad daylight. It was like it had been paused, or that the codes that nature and the simulation used to process the weather had bugged out like a frozen computer. One single leaf totally motionless over 5 feet up in the air, as all the others moved around it. It didn't move for maybe 4 to 5 seconds. I looked and began to move towards it and spoke out loud something like, "What the hell?" As I got closer, all the other leaves just dropped down on the ground motionless. But that leaf didn't fall immediately. It dropped about 2 seconds after the rest as I stood staring bewildered at a single leaf there, just stuck in the air like a broken pixel on a TV screen. It's almost like it bugged out and it took a moment for it to be processed. I did laugh, but the image of that single leaf stuck right in the air still causes me confusion to this very day. Afterwards, around 30 seconds later, I noticed all of the sounds of cars and people playing music, shouting in the distance and sirens, the birds singing, and all the usual things returned. I feel like it all faded back in, but in such a way that it startled me, similar to when you turn the volume dial on a powerful sound system up high for a second, and it makes you jump. Things were just suddenly loud again. I wish I had thought to pick that leaf up. Maybe I should have walked faster and walked through this leaf vortex just to see what happened. But that's how it is, always in hindsight. It was only later that day I realized just how bizarre this situation was. I'll never be able to get my head around that, and it's just such a simple thing. All I can say is that it definitely wasn't normal, and I honestly wish you could all realize how real it felt. Maybe there's bugs in the codes for Mother Nature or the simulation, but I haven't a clue why an isolated pile of leaves would suddenly create a vortex that high without it being windy, and behave in such a way, as well as that sensation of the world around me fading out like that. Who knows? I still wonder about that one brown leaf from time to time. All I know is that I saw what I saw. Please speculate if you have any comments to make. Yours sincerely, a 34-year-old man from the rural East Midlands of England. Peace and love to all. Case file number 877, written by Psychological Use 346. The nap that I never woke from. I was always very open-minded, believed that everything is possible, and tried to get a scientific answer to everything that happened in my life. But for this story, I don't have a definite answer yet, so let's cut to the chase. This happened almost 3 years ago. I live in Brazil, and I spent about 3 weeks in New York City for work. I arrived in New York City on January 28 with flu symptoms, but not all that sufficient to put me in bed. This was at a time when the virus was starting to get some engagement in the news, but nothing that could or would raise any global concerns, because it was only in China and little to no cases in other countries. I worked as expected, healthy, only sneezing on the week of January 28th, and I had the weekend free to explore New York City, as I already went to New York City other times, including a 40-day stay in December 2019. I did not do any sightseeing. I just rode the city bike around Central Park and had lunch on the 14th Street Whole Foods Market restaurant because I needed to stop by GameStop to buy a PS4 power cord. Yes, I brought my PS4 to a work trip. I felt extra tired when having lunch and decided to head to uptown and took a subway there. Once I got to my hotel room, I was a little feverish, took some Alka-Seltzer, and decided to take a nap. And that was it. Next thing I remember, I was standing, watching my soccer team play on the TV 3+ hours after I went for the nap. Now, without a fever or any of the flu symptoms. I don't remember waking up at all. I don't have any memory of leaving the bed, turning on the computer and reaching for the streaming platform. One moment I was laying in bed, a nap coming on. Then a split second later I'm standing, watching the soccer match without any of the symptoms, and 3 hours later. At first I was, okay, it was probably amnesia. I don't have a history of amnesia or memory loss at all though, and this story only becomes creepy because of how the world events turned out in the next months, until now. I mean, we were not caring about the virus at all. Nobody was giving a second thought to it, and the situation was under control according to the experts. Not only that, I believe everything became worse in all aspects. It's like I'm living my life before February 1st where the world was one thing, and after February 1st, another world completely different. I read a lot about shifting dimensions, and this is the closest I went as an explanation of what happened. Did I die from the flu? Case file number 878, written by Gladwinner 8700. Harry Potter magic is real. About 5 years ago, a friend went to some Harry Potter thing. I think it was maybe at Disney World or something of the sort. He brought me back some souvenirs, a Gryffindor keychain, a butterbeer mug, and a really cute feather quill pin. It was black and made out of rubber with a very fine point. I loved it, and I used it a lot in college. I've never seen another one like it anywhere. I have one of those little storage bins with 3 drawers that I keep all my junk in that I can't seem to part ways with. A portable junk drawer, if you will. I've moved twice since getting the pen and tossed it inside years ago. A few months ago, I decided to do some spring cleaning. I cleaned the junk drawer out and was so excited to see it again as I had forgotten all about it. I stuck it in a basket with my kitchen counter for easy access when I needed a pen. After the junk drawer cleaned out, I decided to go through some random bags of junk I had in my closet. I tend to stuff stuff in closets when I'm feeling lazy, and it kinda piles up in random Walmart bags. Well, I'm going through one and I find that same pen. I was very confused by this and thought maybe I had thrown it in the bag instead of on the kitchen counter, so I went to check, and there's the pen in the basket on the counter. There are 2 of them now. I swear I only ever had one, and I can't wrap my head around how I ended up with 2. It still freaks me out. Case file number 879, written by Lights On, Nobody Home 91. Low frequency terror. My experiences began 10 years ago. I heard a weird sound that sounded sharp, almost like a jolting sound. It sounded like a trumpet or some kind of wind instrument. It was quick and sudden and sounded foreboding. I'll also mention I believe there were other beings here that were not human. I believe they were a small group of people who posed as humans. Then, as time went on, I began to believe they were more than half the population of the world. When I began to believe a friend of mine was one, I heard that sound. He showed a face that no human can make. Also, up till that time, I'd seen 3 others who showed strange faces. As well, when I lived on that street, moved there about 4 or 5 years before that sound happened, I'd hear a squeaking and squealing sound, like a swing set. After, it dawned on me that I'd heard it every single time I go outside, only in the backyard, so I noticed a trend. And I would sit outside on the back stoop for hours. It'd be constant, but I just ignored it. After some years, I began to search for the sound. I couldn't find it in the area that I'd heard it from. I looked all over the apartment complex and in the yards of people who lived in the houses. Their backyards were easily visible. Never found the swing set, and then the sound just stopped happening. Also, I'd even hear a loud bang of metal crashing down on the main road I lived near. I presumed it was happening at the place that had a good bit of used, broken down cars in the lot. I think they were in a garage, but there was a park across the street, no swing sets, in the opposite direction of the swing sets that I'd sit in at times. I never heard the loud banging, crashing sound there. Now, to the more recent sounds. There are absolutely no industrial places around here. They're all several miles away by the bay, shipyards. But on the 16th and 17th of November, I heard some strange sounds. It was around 11 a.m. Central Time when I heard it. It sounded like some repeated banging or like an explosion. Almost like a horn or a very, very loud sound of air escaping. It was a deep sound, almost like a tuba, but it sounded like banging. I don't know how to describe the sound precisely, maybe drums? It was happening for about 4 bangs. Then it hit me that the sound shouldn't be coming from that direction. There are no places in this area that can produce a sound, so I began to pay attention, and it lasted for a few more bangs. Then yesterday, I was taking a shower at my mom's house while visiting her, and I heard a very loud rumbling sound. It was too deep in notes, like a bass sound, but it was rumbling. I've lived near trains and airports before, and it sounded very similar to a train being about 100 yards away or a plane flying low and directly overhead. But the nearest trains in the area are about 4 more miles off, and I never hear the trains in that direction. And I never feel the trains the way I did yesterday. Should also mention the loud rumbling from yesterday. If it was a plane, the plane would have to be less than a half mile above the ground and pretty much just hovering almost directly above my mom's house. Bonus file, written by Sabababa, Black Sheep, my friendly back-rubbing demon. I, female 18, honestly have no better way to put this. This happens quite often. Happened just a few moments ago, in fact. Sometimes, regardless of the time of day, I'll lay down on my bed. but then I start to feel 2 hands on my back rubbing me, and there is legitimate movement on my bed. Like an honest-to-God movement that is indistinguishable from if someone was actually there. This normally happens late at night, but has happened during the day before. I have no idea what this is. Funniest thing is, this thing rubs my back normally exactly where I need it to. If I have no pain, it just rubs generally. One late night of working on an art piece, I finished up the piece and my lower back was killing me because of how I was sitting. I groaned and touched my lower back before I jumped on my bed, on my stomach. You can guess what happens next. I start to feel a pair of hands rubbing my lower back. I'm shocked. I lay there for 15 minutes processing the fact no one was in the room but me, and I have never been in a relationship before, so I have never been given back rubs, but this back rubbing demon sure helps. I'll be honest, I didn't know what to do, so I just said thank you to whatever was doing it. Either my brain is playing tricks on me, or I live with a back rubbing demon. Either way, I'm thankful, so might as well make it known. Case file number 880. Written by Hot Wings and Soda. Proof that we're immortal. I've told this to my friend at least a dozen times because he wants to make sense of it. This truly shook me. This happened on a road trip when I was 17, almost 18. It was me and my sister, a couple years older than me, and she was driving a super long beaten road throughout the desert. About 2 hours on the road passed, and suddenly I noticed that the car that was behind us veered off the road and came to a standstill. My sister audibly wonders what they're up to. A few dozen seconds later, there's this terrible series of bumps and cracks in the road that shake the car and knock the phone off the seat, taking the auxiliary out and halting the music. It lands close to me, so I pick it up and start to reconnect the phone. When I do, we get this random catchy ad about trash. The next thing of note happens seconds after the ad ends. I stare off into the window and I see a truck parked ahead of us. As we pass it, I stupidly kept looking at it, and the sheen it gave off, the glare from the sun, completely blinded me for a bit. When I closed my eyes, I still saw the outline of it. I was afraid it was burned into my retinas when I finally opened my eyelids. It started to fade slowly, and all I can remember seeing after that is the emergency airbag in the car pop into my face and sounds of metal on metal. My vision started going black, and the image that's in my eyes from the truck fades away completely. But when it fades, I open my eyes to see us still driving like nothing happened. That's when I noticed the car behind us. Same license plate as before, same car, color, even the same driver to my eyes. The same thing happened again. The road being bad and bumping the phone down, the auxiliary disconnecting, and the same damn ad playing. All the while I'm panicking in my head since my sister dismissed my questions like nothing out of the ordinary happened. We come up to the truck again and I stare. My eyes again have the after image of it. Just as before, I hear metal scraping and feel the airbag pummel my face. As it fades, I'm scared to open my eyes again, but I hear my sister ask, "What is that car doing?" It forces my eyes open to see the same car for the third time, steering into the open desert before halting. I'm in full-blown panic mode as I looked ahead and see the crude road up ahead. I hold onto my phone for dear life and manage to stop the phone from disconnecting. But we still get an ad when the next song plays. The same damn ad. As it nears its end, I stop myself from looking at the truck and instead look ahead, noticing that the car in the opposite lane is swerving slightly. I piece it together in my head and caution my sister about the driver in the car. She has to swerve to avoid the car as it goes into the wrong side of the road, barely missing our car thanks to my sister's driving. The rest of the trip went without much of a hitch. My friend said it may have been something like quantum immortality or a swap between universes. I've always been interested in this stuff, but I have no clue how to explain my experience. Case file number 881. Written by Anonymous. An IQ so high, it broke the matrix. I've always had déjà vu. Not every day, but I'll go through weeks where I get it a lot and weeks where I don't. The only difference between me and most people is that incidents are extreme and almost as if I can predict the future within about 10 seconds. I'm able to know exactly, word for word, what someone will say, even when it's something completely random. I know when traffic lights will change, even when they're in unfamiliar places. I know when someone is going to show up randomly at my house. These may all have explanations, maybe subconsciously just having a really good sense of time or knowing what someone will say, but one time this saved my life. I was driving with my mom and I started to get the feeling. She was driving and I don't know why she believed me, but I'm glad she did. I had told her about my other experiences, but I don't think she ever really believed me before. Anyway, we were driving and I knew that the car coming towards us was going to come onto the wrong side of the road. I told her something along the lines of, "That car is going to come on the wrong side of the road, move over right now." As soon as I said it, the car on the other side came onto our side of the road and almost killed us exactly as I pictured it in my head a few seconds before. I think she moved over just to humor me, but it saved us from a likely deadly accident. This is just one example, but it's an extreme one, and ever since that day, my parents believe me when I know something is going to happen. Case file number 882, written by Unicorn Girl 24. The universe is gaslighting me. About 5 weeks ago, my husband and I had a family emergency in which we left our house rather quickly. When we returned home, it was still in the middle of a work week, so I unpacked our suitcases and threw the clothes into our laundry room and just kind of tossed any other items on the shelf in our bedroom. 2 days later, I realized my wallet was missing. I knew without a doubt that I had put it in one of my suitcase pockets, so I checked there first, but it wasn't there. I checked the same pocket on my husband's suitcase as well, thinking I had mistakenly placed it in there. Still nothing. But I know, even in my haste to unpack and prepare to go back to work, I saw the wallet. My husband then tells me he remembers seeing it on the bed the night we got home, and I remembered seeing it too. I remembered seeing him move it to the shelf when he came to get into bed. 2 weeks go by and I can't find it, but I haven't panicked because I know we both have seen it inside the house, so it has to be somewhere stupid, like I put it in the cabinet or something when I was getting ready for work. 3 weeks go by and I have checked the suitcases again probably 15 times just to recheck. The weekend of the third week, we travel out of town and use the suitcases again. I pack and unpack, nothing of note. 5 weeks later, this weekend, we decided to go out of town and I'm packing my suitcase and see a weird bulge in one of the pockets. It's the wallet. I'm not sure what kind of glitch happened, but I know I have checked that pocket at least 20 times to make sure I wasn't just missing it. But there it was, plain as day. Case file number 883, written by King Bullvife. The universe exiled me. I worked at a car rental agency a couple years ago. Part of the job was picking up customers at the auto body shop and bringing them to our office to put them in a rental car. This particular day, I was supposed to pick up a guy at a shop that was only a 3-minute drive from the office. Notes on his reservation said to pick him up at around 11:30. I left the office at 11:25 and headed over. When I pulled onto the lot of the shop, the door to the main office, waiting room, service counter, etc., was open. The garage bay doors were also open. But there were cars in the garage in various states of repair and such, but no customers. In fact, no employees, no one at all. No customers in the waiting room, no one behind the counter, no one in the garages working on any cars. There were even a couple cars parked in the small lot, but no people. I walked around the entire perimeter of the building and waited about 10 minutes. No one showed up. So I headed back to our office and told my boss no one was there. Our phone rings about 2 minutes after I'm back at work. The customer says that he's at the shop and is waiting for us to pick him up. I didn't mention that I was already there, I just went again. When I get to the shop, there's a guy behind the counter, 2 or 3 customers in the waiting room, about 5 or 6 guys in the garage working on cars, and my customer standing by his car, getting a few belongings out of it. Oddly enough, it's one of the cars that was already there in the first time I went. Still no idea what happened. It's like I was in an empty version of the property with no characters spawned in yet. Case file number 884, written by The Killers 22. The Diapers that Disprove Reality. I'm half convinced my baby's diaper bag is a portal. I keep a lot of things in there, as moms tend to do. With the seasons being temperamental, I often have to entirely empty it so I can redo his spare outfits to be long sleeve, short sleeve, and so on. My husband and I always buy Kirkland brand diapers, always have. They are generic, they just have random cartoon animals on them that aren't licensed characters. Twice now, I found diapers in the bag I've never seen before. One was a Sesame Street diaper, another one was Finding Nemo. I have no idea where these came from, and neither does my husband. In a true stay-at-home mom fashion, I have no life or friends and I just hang out with my husband, my mom, or my sister. None of them would slip a random diaper in the bag and not tell me. Plus, where would one even get one single diaper instead of an entire pack? Anyway, pray for me and my reality-shifting diaper bag. Case file number 885, written by Munchie 612. The Necklace to Rule Them All. I was in my late 20s or early 30s. I'm in my 70s now and still amazed by this. I bought a silver ring at an art festival, had the ring part, that goes on your finger, cut off, and the rest of the ring made into a charm to wear on a chain. I wore it every day, 24/7, never removed it, and constantly rubbed it like a worry stone. Because it was cut off a ring, it had a lumpy texture, and I was always playing with it. One night during intimacies with my then boyfriend, the pendant kept hitting him in the face, so I took it off and tossed it across the room into my vanity table. I heard it hit the table and slide off, assuming it landed on the carpet. Next morning, I couldn't find it. Not anywhere on the carpet, not stuck to any part of the vanity, not in any drawer, nowhere. Oh yeah, forgot to mention that the chain it was on had a broken clasp and I had it closed with a safety pin. I had never had it repaired. Also, I always thought that because I spent so much time rubbing this charm, if I ever lost it, it would find its way back to me. I often said this in a half-joking manner. So about 6 months later, an acquaintance of mine, a friend of a friend, called me at around 1 a.m., pleading with me to bring some migraine medication to her work, which was quite far from my home. She was suffering, so I got the medication and drove to her workplace at Parkway General Hospital. There were only 2 or 3 cars in the parking lot due to the time of day, with only me walking across the parking lot to the back entrance of the hospital, and one other person, a woman who was a housekeeper at the hospital in her uniform. I looked at her and what the hell on earth? My necklace was around her neck. I was practically hypnotized as I walked towards her, and when I got to her, I reached for the charm and pendant and said, "You're wearing my necklace, give it back to me." She said no, it's hers, that her brother had given it to her for her birthday. I said, "This is my necklace and I want it back, I know it is." I described the rough back to her and the broken chain and said, "That's my chain. It's broken and held together with a safety pin. Please take it off." She did remove it, and yes, it was the broken chain with the safety pin. She said she wanted to call her brother, so we went into the hospital, walking down empty hallways with me wondering if she was going to end me there. We got to a phone and she dialed her brother's number. While waiting for someone to answer, I came to my senses and said, "That is my necklace. I want it back and I want it now. I'm not leaving here without it." Amazingly, she wordlessly took the necklace off and placed it over my head and on my neck. I said, "Thank you," and walked away to find my friend and give her her medicine. I asked anyone and everyone who might have been in my house since the night I tossed the necklace onto the vanity table, and no one had been in my house or my bedroom since the night I tossed it. No one had vacuumed my carpet. I still cannot fathom how my necklace moved from my vanity in South Miami and ended up on the neck of a housekeeper who worked at a hospital 45 minutes north of my home. She was a perfect stranger to me. This is the glitchiest of all glitches that I've ever experienced. Creepy file number 70, written by The Evil Pack Rat, The Mysterious Wire. I'm a truck driver. I'm very fortunate because I'm paid by the hour, not by the mileage of the trip. Because we are paid by the hour, we are told that vehicle inspections are part of the time of work, so unlike many truck drivers, we actually do full inspections every morning. Many claim they do vehicle inspections, but I only saw this company which now actually has drivers do it. So every morning around 6:30 a.m. or 5:30 a.m., I inspect my truck. I check for anything that damages oil levels and water. Strangely enough, one day I got a new wire attached to the exhaust system I had never seen before on the same truck I had been driving for a year. When I say a new wire, I should point out it's just new to me. It has some wear and tear of all the other parts of the engine, and it doesn't look new. It's only that I've never seen it before on the truck. That's about it. Just some stupid single wire. Nothing glamorous or cool, just wire that did not exist the previous day. No, it was not in the shop getting worked on. Nobody was paid to install it in the middle of the night. One day it appeared, and that's it. Case notes for file 873. The world ended on Thanksgiving. So in these cases where the world seemingly just stops, goes dead, you're the only one alive, or at least the only one you're able to perceive. I remember the first story I read about this, where it was just a kid that was stuck in his own home, or rather, he awoke in his home. Just a normal day, but no one was around. And he couldn't hear any sounds from anyone else. It was completely dead, a dead world. And it lasted the entire day for him. More recently, there was a similar story, but it was an adult in a city. I don't remember if the kid had to go to bed first, before things were restored. And now in this story, you didn't have to sleep at all. It only lasted a couple minutes, maybe 5 minutes. What is causing people to transition? In their perception, or is it their entire soul that is being pulled to another universe? Maybe it is simply the distance they're being pulled to. If it's a really far universe, maybe it requires many hours, or even a mental reset of sleep. But that would be my impression, that your soul was literally stuck in limbo, a temporary dead server that's meant just to occupy you for a brief period of time, because I guess you can't occupy nothing. You have to be in some universe, even during the transition process. It's like the data is being copied, takes some time to transfer it, at a greater distance. Something like that. Case notes for file 874, the best friend I've never met. My guess in connection to this is simply real-world connections. So in the real world, we probably have friends. Think of it like going to the arcade. Back in the 90s, you'd go to the arcade with your friend and goof around, try to beat each other's high scores and all that. Well, think of the real world in this context, the simulation we're playing, as a very advanced kind of arcade that suppresses your memory of the real world. It's the only way it can work. If this is true, then presumably we could still have friends in the real world, or at least people we know and have connected with deeply. And I think our souls, they resonate with that. And I guess soul is just a way to say the real brain that we have in the real world, those real memories, they may not be accessible consciously to us, but subconsciously. They're still there. So we're able to connect with other people, sort of soulmates, I guess, or friendmates, and we just know, yeah, this person is important to me. I don't know how, I don't know why, but they are. The only weird thing about the story is the fact that she just completely cut off contact with you for no apparent reason. Just one day she didn't like your negative energy. I don't know if something happened before that, but that seems odd, peculiar. I wonder what happened. Case notes for file 875. You'll need glasses to see this glitch. The only thing I can think of is that somehow one of your family members has a copy of your prescription, broke the pair of glasses that you had bought recently, the new frames, and just reordered a new pair, complete with the frames and lenses, so as to not make you angry or frustrated that they had broken them. But this only is possible if they had a copy of your prescription, or somehow called your optometrist's office and got a copy that way, but I don't think they would share that kind of info with just a random person, even a family member. And as you say, you went to the optometrist and it wasn't their frame. So I don't think this is quantum immortality either, because they didn't know you, so that was really your optometrist's office. So why would you have gone to a different optometrist to get a different pair of frames that isn't your style? It doesn't really fit. It doesn't seem like it's de-rendered objects just reappearing. It was your prescription, but it wasn't your frames. It's like the universe getting jumbled up and putting an incorrect frame on your lenses? Perhaps. I'm just gonna chalk this one up to an eyesight guardian angel. That guardian angel truly is looking out for you. Huh? And those are my notes for tonight. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, and subscribe away if you haven't already. What are you waiting for? Kinetic Symphony, signing off. Case notes for file 876. The leaf that proves we live in the Matrix. This does feel like the simulation physics are just not loading properly. They're being slowed down, there's a lag effect. And I think that's most notable by the single leaf that's just frozen in place. It's as if that specific object didn't have the physics applied to it. Sometimes you see that in games, where a car will just merge into the ground or float above it, and it doesn't render that, hey, that's not how gravity works. I'd guess if others were in the vicinity, they would have experienced the same thing. However, you combine it with the fact that the world seemed to be dead, almost like in those stories where people experience no one alive, no one around, no cars, no noise. It seems to be a merger of that. I think you may have been in a transition period where you are in a new universe now. These dead pockets, these dead servers, I'm guessing they're not given a lot of computational resources because you're in a transitionary phase, so that server is probably deleted as soon as you leave it. It doesn't really matter at that point. But I do think your memory is supposed to be wiped from these transitory servers. You're not supposed to remember. I wonder why so many people are remembering these experiences. Case notes for file 877, the nap that I never woke from. So a couple points here. The first is that the virus that shall not be named was probably roaming around before it was officially stated to be here, so it's not inconceivable that you had that instead of just a flu. However, the other point is that people do die just from the flu. That's not unheard of at all. Thousands of people per year, just in the US. Typically older though, of course, but it does happen in even younger people. So is it possible you just had the flu and were visiting New York, went to take a nap, you didn't feel that bad, and then died? You know, actually, if you're sick and you don't have extreme symptoms, I mean, obviously most of the time means that you're just getting better, but sometimes it means that your body's immune system isn't working properly. The symptoms of being sick are actually just your body fighting the virus. You know, stuffy nose, clearing your sinuses, coughing up mucus, or a fever, which is the body trying to kill the virus. All these things are signs of fighting the virus. So if you feel a bit sick and then just immediately clear up, it's like your body's mechanism is not working for some reason. So it's possible that's what happened. You did actually die from just a flu, and then you're in a new universe. And really, it would be completely seamless if you die in your sleep. You literally just go to bed and wake up, and now you're in a new place. That's it. I don't know if it's a worse place than where you came from, if things would have turned out the same way. I don't know. All I know is we gotta work to make the future better for all of us. And I do believe we can. You made it this far, you probably liked the video. Give it a like, subscribe if you want more. See you tomorrow. Case notes for file 878. Harry Potter magic is real. I think DOP can be summarized as either disappearing object phenomena or duplicating object phenomena. They both can apply, and often they happen one after the other. I think the universe's code in storing items, objects, and so on isn't perfect. There may be items and objects that are meant to not disappear, but then when the universe understands that they did, they return it. However, it's not perfect. Sometimes it returns it incorrectly or duplicates it. And ultimately, it's just excitations of the various fields of life. Can you duplicate an excitation in a field? Sure. You just need enough energy. And I guess if you're coming from the real world, you have all the energy you need to do that. Seems like an error in duplication that was preceded by an error in de-rendering. And yeah, you know, possible to duplicate items, but the one rule is you can't duplicate food. That's the wizarding rule. Sadly, I really wish you could. Get that spell to duplicate donuts, or just conjure them from nothing. I'd like that. Case notes for file 879. Low frequency terror. So the main issue with determining the source of a low frequency noise, a very deep sound, is that they tend to travel very far. They're kind of muddied sound, but they still travel far. They're kind of pressure waves in a sense. Whereas high frequency, they dissipate really quickly and they're easily blocked by walls and such. Of course, you have the very known hum, which only some people can hear and in some specific locations. Maybe related to gas lines, it's unclear. And then you have sky trumpets, which is another one that's even more eerie if you ask me. Some people speculate that it's related to the end times, that angels are playing their trumpets. I don't know about that, I hope not. But it could even be related to shifting tectonic plates and things like that. It's just strange that only some people are able to pick it up. Sensitivity to lower frequencies, I guess. Curious. Case notes for the bonus file. My friendly back-rubbing demon. I would guess this is not a demon. If it was a demon, indeed, it would be very friendly and strange, you know. Imagine you're in the supernatural world and you just come out of hell, being tortured for 1,000 years. And then you decide, that was enough bad. Let's just go give some people back rubs that need it. I don't know about that. More likely it's just a lonely spirit or echo. Something that wants to connect and give back, I guess. And if you think about it, what is the best way to introduce yourself as being a spirit or echo? Something beyond the dimension that normal people occupy. Most people aren't going to be, open to that. They're not like us. They're just seeking out this kind of information that's abnormal. They just want a normal existence. So how do you reveal yourself when you don't know if the person's going to be receptive to that? Make their stress go away. It's not a bad call. Pretty smart, I'd say. I wouldn't mind having a back-rubbing spirit. You've reached the end of my thoughts for tonight. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe. I'll see you all tomorrow. Case notes for file 880. Proof that we're immortal. So is this a case of double quantum immortality? In theory, there's nothing that would prevent that. If you die in one universe, and you're transposed to another one, and then in that universe, the same circumstances, or even different circumstances, in theory, could happen and trigger your death in that new universe, and then you're sent into another one altogether. In fact, I think it may happen pretty frequently. We're just not aware of it. Maybe not within the span of a couple minutes of being in a new universe, but in general, within days or weeks, yeah, because it's pretty easy to die as a human being. And indeed, there's nothing to say that the new universe has to be safe for you. It's just that we have almost unlimited lives. Hell, it's not inconceivable that you die and re-engage the same death many times, to such a point that you know how to avoid it, but it may take a lot of attempts. It reminds me of the movie Next, where Nicolas Cage towards the end, where he can see into the future, but it's almost like in a way where he's dying and then restarting a few minutes back. It's almost identical to the situation you describe, which could actually play into quantum immortality. He's just seeing different variations of how he could move his body to avoid being shot at, and then eventually he knows exactly the pattern that the armed man is going to use to shoot him, and then he just avoids it perfectly and grabs the gun. In that one universe, of course, that armed man has no idea that he just went through 100 copies of different scenarios at play, and then he found the one where he could navigate it properly. But given that we retain the information from past lives, past universes, it is in a certain sense almost unknown foresight. Could also play into déjà vu. Case notes for file 881. An IQ so high it broke the matrix. So just like the past story, I think it's related. It can be. The ability to foresee the future can depend on when you're transposed into another universe. If we live in a buffered reality, as I think we do, in effect we already made all the choices we're going to make, or at least for a good while, and then we're just here watching the replay. Maybe it is possible to take control, to restart from replay, in a sense, but I think most of the time we're just watching the replay and then we see how things are going based on the choices we already made. I think this was kind of the premise of The Matrix as well, which is interesting. The movie, I mean. And then it can even relate to errors in the processing of it. Because I think if we're in real time, in some moments, then the amount of computational power to process real-time images and physics and all of that is orders of magnitude greater than just watching a replay. Watching a replay of a game versus rendering out a frame of it it's not even the same, it's not even close. You can watch a movie on a potato, pretty much. Probably literally you could, but you definitely can't play games on it. Well, I don't think so, maybe not yet. Reality is buffered and also quantumly immortal, so when we're dying, we're not really dying, we're just watching from maybe the real world, like jacked in, just to see how things went based on our choices. And then if we die, well, we're just switching servers and then just continuing. But we can continue or restart from like 10 seconds in the past. And I'm just going crazy here in my mind, but maybe there's buffered realities where we already made our choices, but then if we die in those and we restart in a new one, then we actually are in control, we're not just watching. So maybe there's buffered realities, but then when you die and you're going through quantum immortality, in that immediate moment after, you have to restart. It's like watching a replay and then just jumping into a new match after trying to perfect it. Saved lives and just going back, like playing Crash Bandicoot back in the day and dying and just trying to beat the damn thing, but then watching someone else play and, it's along those lines, but it's really watching yourself play. Huh, it's really cool. Makes your head spin a bit. The universe is gaslighting me. So while the universe does seem to be unstable, at least in some respect, maybe the universe we're occupying now, I'm not sure if this relates to that. It might just be a trickster that's trying to mess with you. Because it just seems so precisely attuned to exactly what you would need for a prank. Because it reappeared exactly where you know you checked like 20 times, as you mentioned. So if I was a trickster and I really wanted to mess with someone, that's what I would do. I would want to do it in a way where I could tell them that I was messing with them at least a couple hours after, get their reaction and then say, okay, you're not crazy, don't worry, it's just me. Those are my notes for tonight. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, like the video and subscribe. Tell your friends. Let's be merry. Case notes for file 883. The universe exiled me. So exactly along the lines of the final line of your story is where my mind was going with all this, where I do believe there are transitory periods, servers that are dead, quote unquote, where no one else is in them, or maybe like 10 people that are just in a transitory phase towards the new universe they're going to occupy. It's like a lobby, just waiting to load in. And so yeah, you're in this place, somehow you had died, or for some reason we're crossing over to a new universe, and of course no one was in it. So you just wind up in this autobody place and no one's there and you're so confused. And then you go back, you're finally loaded into the new server, and then the guy that you're not in the original universe anymore, but he still exists in the new universe, which you probably won't notice any differences because there are usually almost none, if any at all. Because every new universe is spawned from the tiniest of interaction. It could be something as simple as an atom bumping into another one. Differently than in a different universe. There's different branching paths just from that. It could be as small as that, where it's not discernible at all to us. So anyways, you're there, he's waiting and wondering why the hell you didn't show up, even though you did go, you just didn't go in that proper universe. You were quite a distance away. But you can't tell him that, because I don't think he'd understand. I do think, however, that our memories are supposed to be wiped of going to this transitory period. And for some reason not being recently. Because these stories are popping up all over the place, and I've never heard of them until like the last year, like the last few months even. It's very strange that we're remembering them. Case notes for file 884. The diaper bag that disproves reality. So yeah, I wouldn't disprove the possibility that this is indeed just some kind of prank. If you want to mess with the mom, mess with the diapers, right? Just add random ones that shouldn't be there. It's conceivable. Just weird that your mom or sister or husband, no one is mentioning that it's a prank. It could be that though. If I had to bet money, I'd probably strike it up to that. Now, another possibility is that objects can de-render and re-render from within universes. So, if humans can cross over their souls, maybe physical matter can too, which would explain why some things reappear in places that they belong in, basically, but they're just a little different sometimes. That's actually very interesting. Huh. I could see that. It would indeed explain why there's a diaper in your bag that is higher brand quality, not Kirkland. I mean, they're still reappearing in your bag though. Maybe it's just something you had bought in a different universe, it de-rendered in that one, and re-rendered in this one. It was assigned the wrong universal code, I guess. Case notes for file 885. The necklace to rule them all. So, the only logical, mundane explanation I can think of is that your boyfriend found the ring when you tossed it to the vanity table. He didn't like it for some reason, maybe because it kept banging him during the intimacies. So he pawned it off without you knowing. Somehow it ended up in this housekeeper's hands from her brother. But, I mean, the odds of that, so many layers of travel in that, it's kind of extraordinary, even if it is just mundane in that way. Also, I have to say, props to you for going all that distance just to help someone that you said it was like an acquaintance of an acquaintance. You help someone who is suffering, so that's very kind of you. And I know I've had migraines in my life, it's not pleasant, so anything to help alleviate that in someone else is very, very appreciated. Case notes for the creepy file, number 70. The mysterious wire. So this does strike me as probably just some human that installed a device onto the truck for some reason. Although based on your other comments in the thread, I don't think it's a camera, but it might be a low voltage GPS tracker. Maybe there's some reason that some competing company or individual would want to track your truck's movements. I'm not sure, but maybe see if you can find where the wire is going to exactly. You may find some weird device, or maybe blocked off by some metal shielding or something to make it look like it's part of the truck. Just spitballing here, but maybe something like that. Very creepy though, I would say. I wouldn't want to drive that truck. You never know. Thus my thoughts are concluded for tonight. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you all have a great day. Like the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Plenty more stories to come.